It was almost midnight when Jaden heard a knock on his apartment door. He wasn't expecting anyone. The street outside was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy. He opened the door slowly, and his eyes widened. In front of him stood a 7-foot-tall alien. Its skin was pale blue, with patterns that moved like waves. Its eyes were large and black, with no whites. It wore a long black coat and held a small, glowing suitcase. "Greetings, human," the alien said calmly. "I am Orlok, the guest assigned to you by the Interspecies Exchange Program." Jaden blinked. He thought it was a prank at first, but then a black government van pulled away from the street. No lights, no sound. His heart pounded. Wait, Jaden said. "You're real?" Orlok nodded slowly. "Yes, I come in peace, and I come to learn about human life, including your reproduction cycle." Jaden froze. What? Reproduction, Orlok repeated. "It is the most complex part of your biology. I am required to observe it closely." Jaden's face turned red. He stepped aside slowly, still confused, and let Orlok walk in. The alien's feet made soft thuds on the wooden floor. The lights in the room flickered slightly as he passed. "You will sleep here," Jaden said. Pointing to the guest room, "I will prepare for my study," Orlok replied, placing his glowing suitcase on the bed. Jaden walked back to the kitchen and grabbed his phone. He called the government number they gave him when he signed up to host. No answer, just a robotic voice. "All communication is monitored. Do not be alarmed," the message said. Great, Jaden thought. Now he was stuck with an alien talking about breeding. Later that night, Jaden couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Orlok said. What did he mean by observe reproduction? Was he going to spy on people? Was this some kind of alien dating experiment? Jaden decided to check on him. He quietly opened the guest room door. Orlok was sitting cross-legged on the bed, reading a human biology book upside down. "Do humans lay eggs internally or externally?" the alien asked without looking up. Jaden almost choked. "Neither, dude," he said. "We don't lay eggs." Orlok looked surprised. "That is unexpected," he said. "I must adjust my hypothesis." The next morning, Jaden tried. To act normal, he made eggs and toast, feeling weird about the eggs. Orlok joined him at the table. He looked at the plate and asked, "Are these the young of your species?" Jaden dropped his fork. "No. They're chicken eggs, not human." He shouted, "I see," Orlok said calmly, and took a bite. "Delicious," he added, chewing slowly. After breakfast, Orlok started exploring the apartment. He stared at the refrigerator for 10 minutes. He opened the microwave and said, "Is this your breeding chamber?" Jaden sighed. "No, it's for heating food, not making babies." Orlok took notes in a small, glowing notebook. Everything fascinated him. Water faucets, electrical sockets, toilet paper. He asked questions non-stop. What is the purpose of shampoo? Do socks serve a reproductive role? Why do humans wear pants at home? Jaden was exhausted by lunchtime. He opened his laptop and started watching a sci-fi movie. Orlok sat beside him and watched closely. In the movie, two humans kissed. Then the scene faded to black. Orlok tilted his head. "This is mating?" he asked. "Kind of," Jaden said awkwardly. "But it's not always like that. I must attempt this." Orlok said. Jaden almost dropped his laptop. "No, you can't just try it." Orlok blinked slowly. "Then how do humans know when the moment is right?" Jaden rubbed his face. "You have to get to know someone, become close, build feelings, like a bond?" Orlok asked. "Yes," Jaden nodded. "Exactly." Orlok stood up. "Then I must begin at once," he said. He walked to his room and returned with a strange alien device. "I will calibrate this for human attraction scans," he said seriously. Wait, Wait, Jaden said, panicking. What are you scanning? Please don't go outside scanning people. Orlok stopped. Is this behavior not accepted? Not even close, Jaden said. He took the device and placed it on the table. You need to learn the human way of doing things, he added. Orlok looked thoughtful. Then you will teach me, he said. Jaden sighed again. Yeah. I guess I have to. That night, as Jaden lay in bed, he stared at the ceiling. He had no idea how he would survive this week, or what kind of trouble Orlok might get into next. From the other room, Orlok called out, Jaden, I found something. Called Tinder? Is this a human breeding app? Jaden's eyes widened. Oh no, he whispered, and so. The real chaos was about to begin. The next morning started with a crash. Jaden rushed out of his room, heart pounding. In the living room, he found Orlok sitting calmly on the floor, surrounded by broken dishes and spilled cereal. I was trying to understand your food rituals, Orlok said, tilting his head. I saw humans in a documentary throw rice at weddings. I assumed this was similar. Jaden sighed and grabbed a towel. That's not how breakfast works. Man, he muttered. Orlok took out his glowing notebook and added a note. Cereal throwing equals not mating behavior, he said to himself. Later that day, Jaden took Orlok for a walk, hoping some fresh air would help. He warned him not to ask personal questions. Just observe. Don't scan anyone, and no weird comments. Please, Orlok. Nodded seriously. I will behave according to the Earth customs. I have studied human courtship rituals. Jaden didn't like the sound of that. They passed by a group of students sitting outside a cafe. A girl laughed loudly at her friends. Joke, Orlok immediately turned and stared. She is expressing interest through sound display. He whispered. No, she's just laughing, Jaden said quickly, pulling him away. But laughter is a bonding tool, Orlok insisted. Yes, but it doesn't mean she wants to mate, Jaden said, feeling embarrassed. Suddenly, Orlok approached a man walking a dog. Excuse me, sir, he said in his deep voice. Are you currently breeding with your companion? The man looked shocked. Jaden pulled Orlok away in panic. Stop that. You can't ask people things like that. But I require data, Orlok said, confused. Try Google, Jaden snapped. Not strangers. When they got back to the apartment, Jaden decided it was time for a serious talk. He sat Orlok down on the couch and turned off the TV. Listen, we don't breed like animals, okay? There's no season, no signals, no scanning. Orlok looked thoughtful. But how do humans know who is a good match? We talk, we feel, we connect, Jaden said. It's complicated. Orlok nodded slowly. Then I must adapt. I will attempt conversation bonding. Jaden didn't like the sound of that either. Fine, but please be normal, he warned. Orlok stood up, straightened his coat, and opened the door. I will return with bonding success, he declared, and left. 10 minutes later, he returned, holding a phone number on a napkin. She gave me this. It is a sign of interest, Orlok said proudly. Who did? Jaden asked. The woman selling smoothies downstairs. Jaden raised an eyebrow. What did you say to her? I told her I am studying human bonding and would like to witness her smile again. Jaden was shocked. Wait, that actually worked. She said I was charming, Orlok said, blinking slowly. Jaden leaned back, confused and impressed. Maybe being totally weird was working somehow. Later that evening, Jaden found Orlok sitting with headphones on, watching romantic movies. 1 minute, he was crying during a wedding scene. The next minute, he was analyzing every sentence. Why? Did he say I love you after only 3 dates? Orlok asked. Because it's fiction, Jaden replied. It's faster in movies. Orlok looked serious. Then reality must be slower. I will proceed carefully. The next day, Jaden caught Orlok writing something on paper. What's that? My courtship plan, Orlok said, showing a list. It read, observe human subject, complement physical symmetry, offer nutrient-based gifts, ice cream, ask for emotional exchange, attempt hand contact. You sound like a robot. Jaden said, laughing. Orlok didn't understand the joke. This is the most logical order for bonding. He replied. That night, things got even weirder. Jaden found Orlok in front of a mirror, practicing smiles. Each one looked more terrifying than the last. Are these smiles acceptable? Orlok asked. You look like you're about to bite someone. Jaden said, trying not to laugh. I will reduce tooth display by 30%. Orlok replied, adjusting his mouth position. Jaden sat on the couch, watching his alien roommate. Try to act human. It was hilarious, but also kind of sweet. He realized Orlok wasn't just copying humans. He was genuinely trying to understand. Not for a mission, not for science, but to feel something real. Later that night, Orlok returned from another walk. He looked disappointed. No bonding today, he said, sitting down. I asked a woman about emotional vulnerability. She threw coffee at me. Jaden laughed. Yeah, don't start with that stuff. Orlok looked tired. I thought learning human love would be simple, but it is more confusing than I expected. Jaden patted his shoulder. Welcome to Earth, buddy. Outside, the night was quiet again, but inside, the small apartment. One alien was slowly learning something no science book could teach. Human bonding wasn't just biology. It was messy, awkward, and full of mistakes. But maybe, just maybe, that's what made it real. It had been 3 days since Orlok arrived on Earth. 3 long, awkward, and exhausting days. Jaden had stopped trying to act normal. There was no such thing as normal anymore. Not with an alien roommate studying human reproduction, that morning, Jaden was brushing his teeth when Orlok knocked on the bathroom door. I have made progress, Orlok announced proudly. I have located an official human breeding center. Jaden spit out the toothpaste. You what? Orlok held up a printed brochure. It had the words, Welcome to FutureGen Fertility Clinic in big, bold letters. Below it, smiling doctors. Babies and test tubes. I booked an appointment for 2 p.m., Orlok said. Jaden stared at him in shock. Please tell me you didn't tell them you're an alien. No, I used a temporary human identity, Orlok said, showing a fake ID. It read, Oliver Locke, Science Research Volunteer. You can't just walk into a fertility clinic and ask to breed, Jaden said, panicking. I will not ask, Orlok replied calmly. I will offer my cooperation. I am fully prepared. Jaden followed him to the kitchen, where he had laid out strange alien devices. Are those tools? Jaden asked nervously. They are scanning and sampling devices. Non-invasive, Orlok said. I am respecting human boundaries. Jaden ran his hand down his face. This was going to be a disaster. At 2 p.m. sharp, they entered the quiet, clean fertility clinic. A lady at the front desk greeted them. Hi, do you have an appointment? Yes, Orlok replied, smiling with 30% less teeth. I am here to participate in your breeding program. The receptionist blinked. Confused, you mean? Fertility donation. Yes, Orlok nodded. I wish to provide my genetic material for analysis and distribution. Jaden quickly stepped in. He means he's here for a research contribution. He's very dedicated. They were asked to wait, and Orlok sat quietly. Scanning the room, he whispered to Jaden, There are no mating displays, no scent rituals, no competitive dances. It's not that kind of place, Jaden whispered back. Then how do they choose partners? They don't. It's medical. A nurse finally called them in. Orlok was led into a private room, and Jaden waited outside nervously. He tapped his foot. Wondering what kind of chaos was about to happen inside the room, Orlok looked. Around a small chair, a table with a cup, magazines, and soft lighting. He frowned. There are no observation devices. No technicians, he said aloud. Then he picked up a magazine, opened a page, and looked confused. A few minutes later, the nurse returned. Orlok was sitting stiffly, holding the empty cup. "I have completed the mission," he said. The nurse took the cup, then paused. It was glowing blue. "What? What is this?" she asked. "My offering," Orlok replied. "My species has regenerative plasma that stores genetic data." The nurse dropped the cup. Alarms went off, and 2 security guards rushed in. One of them yelled, "Is that radioactive?" Jaden heard the noise and ran into the room. "Oh no," he whispered, seeing Orlok surrounded. "I was only helping," Orlok said, looking confused. "I followed the instructions precisely. They were kicked out immediately." Jaden had to sign a form swearing never to return. Outside, Orlok looked down at his feet. "I failed," he said quietly, again. Jaden didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You can't give people alien samples. "Dude, that's not how Earth works. I thought I was offering value," Orlok said. "You scared them half to death." They walked in silence back to the apartment. Orlok sat on the couch, staring at nothing. "I came to understand humans," he said, "but I only cause problems." Jaden sat next to him. "Look, man, you're not a failure," he said. "You just misunderstood the point." "What is the point?" Orlok asked. "Reproduction isn't just about biology," Jaden replied. "It's about connection, emotion, trust." Orlok looked up slowly. "I do not understand these things. Not yet." "That's okay," Jaden said. "Most humans don't either." Later that night, Orlok went online again. This time, instead of searching breeding rituals, he typed "how to make human." Friends, he found articles about kindness, empathy, listening. He read every word. Jaden peeked into his room and saw him practicing handshakes in the mirror. "Step 1, Orlok whispered. Gain trust. Then form bond." He looked at himself and added, "No more clinics." Asterisk for the first time since he arrived on Earth, Orlok didn't speak during breakfast. He stared at his toast as if it was hiding some secret answer. Jaden noticed the change. Right away, usually, Orlok would be asking 10 questions by now, or scanning the toaster for mating signals. "You good?" Jaden asked, taking a bite of cereal. Orlok nodded slowly. "Yes, but I am." Confused, Jaden smiled. "Welcome to the club. I have failed every bonding attempt," Orlok said. "I have been kicked out of clinics, threatened by a smoothie vendor, and blocked by 17 users on social media." Jaden laughed a little. "You counted." "I made a spreadsheet," Orlok replied, color-coded by rejection type. Jaden put down his spoon. "All right, listen," he said. "Maybe it's time you stop focusing on breeding and start focusing on people." Orlok tilted his head. "Explain. You want to understand humans, right?" "Correct." "Then stop trying to study us like lab rats," Jaden said. "Just hang out with people, talk, share stories, laugh, get mad, feel awkward, everything. That's how real connection happens." Orlok blinked slowly. "So I must experience emotional chaos to understand bonding." "Exactly," Jaden nodded. "That's what being human is." Later that day, Jaden took Orlok to a family barbecue. It was a bright, noisy afternoon, filled with kids running, uncles arguing, and music playing too loud. As they stepped into the backyard, Orlok stopped and whispered, "This appears to be a ritual gathering." "Yeah," Jaden said. "It's called Saturday." They walked over to the grill, where Jaden's cousin Tara was flipping burgers. "Hey," she said, raising an eyebrow, "this your tall blue friend you've been texting about?" "Yes," Jaden said. "This is Orlok, my alien roommate." Orlok held out a hand. "I bring peace and no toxins," he said. Tara laughed. Well, that's good to know. Jaden stepped away for a moment, leaving Orlok alone. Orlok scanned the yard. People were laughing, talking, eating, hugging. No mating rituals, no scanning devices, just humans being messy and loud and alive. A small child ran up to him holding a sticky popsicle. Are you a robot? The child asked. No. Orlok replied, but I can speak 8 languages and lift a car. Cool, the child said, and ran away. Orlok looked around again, and for the first time, he didn't feel like a scientist. He felt like a guest. Later, while sitting on a bench near the fence, he watched a young couple dancing slowly to a love song. They weren't speaking, just moving together, eyes closed. Orlok whispered to himself, so this is mating preparation. Tara sat next to him, handing him a soda. You look deep in thought, she said. I am confused. He admitted, I came to study human reproduction, but none of this matches the data. Tara smiled. Yeah, we're not as logical as you'd like, are we? Not at all, he replied. You make choices based on emotion, not efficiency. Exactly. She nodded. That's what makes it beautiful. He looked at the soda in his hand. This drink is mostly sugar, also beautiful. Tara said, taking a sip, as the sun set. Jaden found Orlok sitting alone near the porch, watching fireflies blink in the dark. Hey, Jaden said, you survived the barbecue. Orlok nodded. I have learned many things, such as children are unpredictable, meat is sacred, and romantic bonding is often silent. Jaden sat beside him. That's not bad. Orlok turned his head. I also learned that humans do not form connections through questions or tests. They form them through shared experience. Jaden smiled. You're starting to get it. I felt something today, Orlok added, looking up at the stars. A warmth, not from the sun, but from being included. That's called friendship, Jaden said softly. Orlok repeated the word, friend. Ship, he smiled. This time without showing too many teeth, later that night. As they returned to their apartment, Orlok stopped. At the door, I wish to continue, he said. But differently now. Jaden raised an eyebrow. How differently? I no longer seek to breed, Orlok said with pride. I seek to understand what makes humans stay together, even when they are imperfect. Jaden gave a short laugh. Well then, buckle up. It only gets weirder from here, inside. Orlok placed his scanning device into a drawer and closed it gently. Then he took out a pen and a notebook, and wrote 4 words at the top. Humans are beautifully broken. Orlok was finally feeling settled. He no longer scanned people, no longer spoke of reproduction as a mission. Instead, he studied emotions, watched people interact, and asked Jaden thoughtful questions like, why do humans cry during movies? Where no one dies? Or if love hurts, why do you want it? Jaden didn't always have answers, but they talked for hours. And Orlok wrote everything down in his notebook, no longer just as a scientist, but as someone trying to understand what it meant to be human. Then, one morning, everything changed. A loud, rhythmic buzzing echoed through the apartment. Orlok's wrist communicator was glowing bright red. Jaden looked up from his bowl of cereal. What's that? Alien spam mail. Orlok stood slowly, face serious. It is a recall signal, he said. My superiors are contacting me. He tapped the device, and a holographic screen appeared mid-air. A sharp-faced alien with deep green skin appeared, wearing a black robe and no smile. Agent Orlok, the figure said. Your mission has gone off course. Jaden raised an eyebrow. Whoa, okay, serious boss energy. He whispered. Orlok stood tall. I have altered my approach, Commander Zeth. The human bonding process is more complex than expected. Unacceptable. The commander snapped. You were assigned to study reproduction, not emotion. Jaden stepped forward. Hey, he's doing fine. Better than you think. The alien stared at him coldly. Human interference has clouded his judgment, he said. He is no longer focused on his objective. Orlok remained calm. I have learned that human reproduction is deeply connected to their emotions. If we do not study their emotional structure, we miss the foundation of the species. There was silence. Then the commander said, "You have 48 Earth hours to complete your report and return, or we will extract you by force." The screen vanished, leaving a quiet tension in the air. Jaden looked at Orlok. "They're serious, huh?" "Yes," Orlok said softly, "and they will come if I do not go later that day." Jaden invited Orlok to the university auditorium. He was giving a small guest talk for his sociology class. The professor had heard about his weird roommate and asked for a few words. At first, Orlok refused, but Jaden insisted. "Come on," he said. "Show them what you've learned. Your people might not listen, but maybe mine will." So that evening, Orlok stood nervously at the podium, wearing Jaden's borrowed hoodie over his uniform. The students looked at him, half curious, half confused. He cleared his throat. "I come from a planet where logic rules," he began. "We do not hug, we do not laugh, we do not cry, unless it is chemically required." Some students chuckled, unsure if they were supposed to. Orlok continued. "My mission was to study human breeding, to collect data, and return. But I have discovered something unexpected." He looked out across the room. "You are not efficient. You are not predictable. Your mating rituals are chaotic. But you feel, you love, you forgive. You try again after failure. Again and again." The room grew quiet. "You bond through pain and joy, through food, through silence, through mistakes. These things cannot be measured. They must be lived." He paused. "My species believes you are weak because you are emotional, but I believe your emotions are your greatest strength." The students clapped slowly, then louder. Even the professor looked impressed. Jaden stood at the back, arms crossed, smiling. "Not bad for a space guy," he whispered, after the talk. Orlok sat quietly in the garden outside. Jaden joined him. "They liked you," he said. Orlok nodded. "But it will not matter to my people. They do not want understanding. They want data." Jaden was quiet for a moment. Then, "Give them both," he said finally. "Write your report. Tell them what they want to hear, but also tell the truth." Orlok looked at him. "You mean lie?" "No," Jaden said. "Just tell it in your own way." That night, Orlok stayed up writing. His notebook filled with pages, diagrams, emotions, quotes, and questions. He titled it, "Human Reproduction, a Study of Hearts, the Next." Morning, Orlok sent the report. He stood by the window, waiting at exactly noon. His communicator flashed again. A single message appeared on the screen. "Report received. Return now." Orlok turned to Jaden. "It's time." Jaden nodded. Slowly, "You gonna be okay?" Orlok gave a soft smile. "I do not know," he said. "But I understand more now than when I arrived." They walked together to the empty field where Orlok's ship would land. As the wind picked up and the grass swayed, Jaden suddenly said, "You know, you're not just some alien to me. You're a friend." Orlok looked at him for a long moment. "I feel warmth," he said. "It is not from the sun. And it is not in any textbook, I believe. It is friendship." The ship arrived silently, a beam of blue light shining down. Orlok stepped forward, then turned back. "If I do not return, remember what I learned here." Jaden nodded. "Always." And with that, the beam lifted Orlok. Into the ship, the light vanished. The field went quiet. And Earth was a little less strange, but also a little more connected. The apartment felt different without Orlok. It wasn't just the extra space. It was the silence. Jaden hadn't realized how used he'd become to the strange hum of alien devices. The smell of Orlok's imported disinfectant, or the sound of him practicing human phrases at 3 a.m. Now, all of that was gone. It had been 3 days since the ship took him away. No calls, no messages, no sign that Orlok even made it back. Safely, Jaden stared at the empty guest room. The bed was still perfectly made. A notebook sat on the table. Jaden hadn't noticed it before. He opened it carefully. On the first page was a note written in neat, glowing letters to Jaden, my first human bond. The rest was filled with sketches of human faces, quotes from movies they watched, diagrams of emotional waves, and small things Jaden had said, things he didn't even remember saying. He smiled, then sat down on the bed. Somehow, Orlok had become more than a guest. He had become a part of Jaden's world. Later that day, Jaden walked into his favorite cafe. The woman behind the counter saw him and said, "No tall blue guy today." Jaden chuckled. Not this time. He sat at a corner table and stared at the street outside. Humans passed by, busy, loud, unpredictable. Jaden used to find them annoying. Now he understood them a little better. He wondered if Orlok had convinced his people that emotions mattered. He hoped so. That night, Jaden was watching a movie alone when his phone buzzed. No caller ID, just one word, glowing on the screen. Connection. His heart jumped. He ran to the window, expecting a spaceship or a light beam, but the sky was still and empty. Then, his laptop turned on by itself. A blue circle appeared on the screen, pulsing gently, and then Orlok's voice, calm and steady. Jaden leaned forward. "Is that you? Where are you?" "I am safe," Orlok replied. "My report was accepted." Barely, Jaden laughed. "I knew they'd come around. They still do not understand emotions," Orlok said, "but they now accept that they are unavoidable." Jaden smiled. "So what now?" "I have been reassigned," Orlok said. "My next task is to observe long-term human bonding." "Long-term?" Jaden asked. "Yes," Orlok replied. "I must return to Earth for a more advanced mission." Jaden stood up. "You're coming back?" "Soon," Orlok said. "But not alone." Jaden blinked. "What do you mean, not alone?" There was a pause. Then Orlok continued. "My species has decided to send a second observer." Jaden raised an eyebrow. "Another one of you?" "I barely survived the first. This one is more curious," Orlok said, "and more emotional than I was when I arrived." Jaden laughed. "Great. More emotional than you. That's going to be wild. I believe you will manage," Orlok said. Then his voice softened. "I wanted to say thank you, before I return, for your patience, your guidance, and your friendship." Jaden felt a lump in his throat. "You taught me to, you know. I thought aliens would be scary," he added. "But you were just lost," Orlok replied. "Aren't we all?" The screen dimmed and the blue light faded. Jaden stood in the quiet room again. But now, it didn't feel so empty. 3 days later, the sky above the city shimmered for exactly 4 seconds. No one else noticed it, but Jaden was already waiting. At the field, the grass bent in waves as a ship slowly landed. This time, it was quieter, smaller, more familiar. The door opened, and Orlok stepped out, wearing a long coat and holding a small silver case. Jaden smiled. "You brought luggage." "This time." "I brought understanding," Orlok replied, and then, behind him, a second figure appeared, slightly shorter, with bright violet eyes and a curious expression. "This is Valona," Orlok said. "She is here to study advanced bonding." Valona stepped forward, looked at Jaden, and asked, seriously, "Do you prefer holding hands before or after emotional vulnerability?" Jaden blinked, then laughed. "Oh boy," he muttered. "Here we go again." But deep down, he was glad. Because Sometimes the most unexpected goodbyes become new beginnings, and sometimes aliens come back with friends. 3 weeks had passed since Orlok returned to Earth. Life in the apartment was once again strange, but now it felt normal. Jaden no longer flinched when he heard alien devices humming in the kitchen. He had accepted that normal was just a word humans used to stay sane. Orlok had changed. He still carried his notebook everywhere, but now it had doodles of laughing faces, barbecue grills, and hearts with question marks inside. He no longer said, "I am observing," now. He said, "I am participating." And then there was Velena. She was different. If Orlok was a calm storm, Velena was a lightning bolt. She asked questions non-stop, but not about science. She wanted to know why humans danced when no one was watching, why some people cry at the sound of music, and why hugs made her feel warm in the chest. One night, she asked Jaden directly, "How do you know when someone likes you?" Jaden blinked, caught off guard. "Well," he said, "usually they laugh at your bad jokes, find excuses to sit close, and get nervous when they care." Velena leaned forward. "Then I may be infected," she said seriously. I laughed 4 times at your jokes today. Jaden laughed awkwardly. "Good to know," he said. "I guess emotional infection spreads fast." Things were going well until the message came. It arrived late one night. The apartment lights flickered, and Orlok's wrist device buzzed silently. He looked at it and frowned. "What is it?" Jaden asked. Orlok pressed a button, and a holographic screen appeared. This time, it wasn't Commander Zeth. It was someone higher, a figure in full ceremonial robe. Surrounded by glowing symbols, "Orlok," the voice said, "We have reviewed your latest reports. They are concerning." Orlok stood tall. "In what way?" "You have gone beyond observation," the voice continued. "You have integrated into human culture, shown emotional influence, and possibly developed romantic attachment." Velena looked surprised. "I was not informed. This was forbidden." "It is not forbidden," the figure said slowly, "but it is unusual." Jaden stepped forward. "Wait a second. Are you saying he did something wrong for feeling something real?" The alien on the screen didn't blink. "We are saying your influence may change him and her beyond recognition." Orlok looked at Velena. Then at Jaden. "I have changed," he said clearly, "but not in a bad way." Then, "Prove it," the voice said. "You have 10 Earth days to submit a final message. One that explains why human emotional bonding is worth understanding. If it fails to convince us, the Earth program will be cancelled." And all observers were called. The screen faded. Silence filled the room. Velena looked at Orlok. "We must write this message." Orlok nodded. "But it cannot just be words," he said. "It must be human." For the next 10 days, they worked together. They visited parks, schools, nursing homes, coffee shops, libraries. They filmed people smiling and crying, hugging and arguing, helping each other, failing and trying again. They recorded Jaden telling his story, how an alien roommate became a friend, and how that friendship made him feel less alone. They included Velena's first drawing of a heart. They included Orlok's first joke, which made Jaden laugh so hard he cried. On the last night, they sat together on the rooftop under the stars. The video message was ready. "Are you nervous?" Jaden asked. A little. Orlok replied. "Not for myself, but for what this means," Velena added. "If they reject it, we may never return." Jaden looked at them both. "Then give them the truth, not just about humans, but about yourselves." The next morning, the message was sent. 3 long days passed. Then, at midnight, the answer came. The same holographic screen appeared. This time, the voice was calm. "We have reviewed your message." There was a long pause. Then, finally, "We were moved." Orlok raised his head. You mean it worked? The Earth program will continue, the voice said, but only under one condition. What is it? Jaden asked. The voice replied, we request a new type of report. Not about biology, not about science, but about love, friendship, and fear. Things we once believed had no purpose. Orlok smiled slowly. Then we accept. The screen faded. Jaden stood in the quiet, then looked at Orlok and Valona. So, what now? He asked. Orlok turned to him. Now, he said, we study love, Valona added, and maybe experience it? Jaden raised an eyebrow. Was that directed at me? She smiled. Possibly. They all laughed. The stars above blinked. Gently, as if listening, and in one small apartment on Earth. 3 hearts, 2 alien, 1 human, beat just a little closer. Not for science, not for data, but for something far more complicated. Something beautifully human.